So we finally get to see the long-awaited Game of Thrones pinball machine. We've got the photos, we've got the feature matrix, and we're going to go deep in the highlights and lowlights of day one, the release day of the information on Game of Thrones pinball from Stern Pinball here on episode 193 of Coast to Coast Pinball. Let's go. Welcome to Coast to Coast Pinball. My name is Nate Shivers. This is a podcast. It's a commentary. I'm a man out of quarters. How are you doing tonight? Coming to you not live from a hot and muggy, very hot and muggy September 8th, 2015 here in San Diego, California. Gross, warm out here. It was windy and warm and humid. We're in a newly designed Coast to Coast Pinball Studios. We've got things happening. Things are going on. Needed more workspace. For those of you paying attention, over the weekend, Teresa and I set up the first ever Coast to Coast Pinball live streaming through YouTube, which was fun. Played a little America's Most Haunted. We will do it again. It was really more just a test of the systems to see if we could support it, see if we could do it. I admire very greatly the work that goes into the different streaming feeds that we get from folks like Dead Flip and Buffalo Pinball and many others. But those are the ones who I've had the pleasure of watching multiple times. It's a lot of work, and we'll probably talk more about the streaming stuff next episode. Tonight, I want to get into the Game of Thrones stuff, but I will just say, if you go to YouTube and you search for Coast to Coast Pinball, or if you look through the Coast to Coast Pinball Facebook page, you can find a link to a portion of our first ever stream of Teresa and I playing America's Most Haunted. We were messing around. I don't know that we were playing very good pinball, but we were playing pinball. It was a lot of fun. I would love you to do this for me. If friendly listeners would do this, if you would subscribe to our YouTube page, there will be more video content coming shortly. There will probably be some more streaming, but it would mean a lot to me if you could subscribe to the Coast to Coast Pinball YouTube page. That would be awesome. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. So let's jump into the story of the day, which is the release of some photos and some features and some information on the much anticipated Game of Thrones pinball.
Highlights and lowlights.
All right, first off, let's talk about expectations, shall we? Because this game has been rumored for a long time. I mean, this game, we've talked about Game of Thrones as a pinball theme for literally, I think, 2 years now on Coast to Coast Pinball. I remember people saying, oh, they'll never make Walking Dead and Game of Thrones. It's too gory and sad and depressing and violent and yada yada. And here we are. Walking Dead, I think, is doing very well for Stern. And Game of Thrones has been all the buzz as we lead up to this. So Steve Ritchie's designing Game of Thrones. We know that he's sort of been pushed, this game's been pushed back a little bit. And I was told by a couple people over the last maybe, 6 months or so that, oh, you're going to be really impressed. This game's going to have some new stuff. They're really throwing everything at this. And immediately my mind went to, is it still going to have a DMD? And everybody told me the whole time, yes, this game's still going to have a DMD. So I wasn't really let down by the fact when we saw the first photos of Game of Thrones that there was still the signature kind of red Stern DMD. I knew that was coming. They're not ready to go to a different display yet. Totally was expecting that. Game of Thrones is a very dense story. It is, I think, 5 books in. Later in this episode, we will be having a special guest on this episode who has read most of all 5 of those books and has certainly seen all of the television shows on HBO based off of the books. It's character rich. There's lots of characters. I mean, lots of characters. Early in the show, before I was really hooked to it, because I do watch this consistently, I was very confused by some of the characters because, certain medieval guys in chainmail armor with swords, I was confusing them for other certain chainmail guys. You get what I'm saying. Lots of different characters. Just get in their names and their families' names straight. Very difficult. It's not light reading or watching, I guess is what I'm trying to say. It's a fantastic story. And this show has no qualms about taking this person that you really are rooting for, the hero, the the character who you are relating to and you are pulling for and you want to see conquer and beat the bad guy, they have no problem cutting that guy's head off right in front of you. They do that. They will break your heart. I know that I was at our place one time. I think it was our last place where we lived before we moved into here. And I heard something slam into the wall, and it was actually Teresa reading book 1 of the Game of Thrones, of the Songs of Ice and Fire, I believe is what the series is called. And she threw the book against the wall when one of her favorite characters was killed. So, expectations. Let's talk about that. We've all been waiting. We've been wanting to know what it was going to look like. There's been talk of Stearns really pulling a coup off here, having this story Game of Thrones that has dragons in it. And they're going to release this medieval tale pinball machine right as Jersey Jack Pinball is about to release The Hobbit. And it was sort of odd timing because they're also building for Chicago Gaming Medieval Madness remake. So it was like all this stuff happening at once with medieval tales and swords and et cetera, dragons. And a lot of people thought, wow, wouldn't it be something if Stern beats Jersey Jack to the punch with a moving dragon? Well, they did that. There is a moving dragon here, which we'll get into. I will tell you, today has been an interesting day because I knew today was the day, and I didn't do a show all weekend on purpose because I knew this was coming. I knew we were going to see the game today, and I didn't want to talk about it until I saw it all. So when I saw posts of it, I was at work, and I just pulled up all the photos of everything and just took my time over the first hour or so of my day between making phone calls and doing actual work and then looking at the photos of this new game. I will tell you, my honest opinion, when I first saw it, thought it was a joke. I did not believe that what I was looking at was actually the right machine in the first few moments that I had it open. The color scheme of the back glass animation, the artwork decisions on the side of the cabinet, and the color scheme that I saw on the playfield just looked fake to me. Now, once I got past just the back glasses and looked at the playfield, I realized it was indeed real because it was too much detail, too many things specific to Game of Thrones, and very much it was a Stern pinball machine. And I was like, okay, so that's real. And then I just kept going back to the artwork on the back glass and the sides, and it just didn't look right to me. I'm not even at this point going to say it looked bad or anything. It just didn't look right to me. I've watched every minute of Game of Thrones. I'm really invested in the story. So in my mind, I have an idea of what Game of Thrones is, and what I was seeing on both the Pro and the limited edition versions of Game of Thrones that were shown today did not match up in my head whatsoever with what I think of Game of Thrones. In fact, I thought it was fake at first because the back box and the sides sort of looked like takeoffs of The Hobbit and Wizard of Oz to me on some level. That's just in my head. That's the first thing I thought of. I said, no, somebody has mocked this up and is tricking me. And like I told you, I knew that wasn't the case once I saw the playfield. So, coming from my expectations, someone who's a fan of Game of Thrones, who knows Game of Thrones, who I love to tell people how great Game of Thrones is, and how even if you're not into medieval times and dragons and witches and stuff like that, you've got to give this show a chance because it's such a great story and it's so epic. I was really bewildered by the look of the outer package of these pinball machines. They just didn't look right to me. So then I started looking at the playfield. And when I first looked at the playfield, I was thinking, wow, that looks like Pirates of the Caribbean. And it's the yellow and tan that kind of covers the lower two-thirds of the game. It also has pretty large inserts. This kind of feels like Sega Pinball to me, just at a glance of these rather big inserts. I was really uncomfortable with how this game looked. It just didn't feel right to me. And I was looking at the limited edition playfield at first, and I'm talking about the artwork didn't feel right to me. But I will say this, when I looked at the design, and when I looked at what was going on, I actually thought, well, that's pretty cool. Like, they got a full-on upper playfield with flippers, pair of flippers, which I believe are full-size, as far as I can tell, with a dragon toy. They've got a cool, throne, the Iron Throne, direct out of the story. We've got, a couple ramps here We've got some wireframe, ball returns to the in lanes. We've got a cool sword that like stops the ball to lock the ball on one of those wireframe ramps. I thought it was pretty cool what was going on. But there were some really odd art packaging choices that I just couldn't help but going back to. On the mini playfield up in the upper left, there were silhouetted out like guys fighting. It was an odd choice to me. It just kind of, I don't know, didn't feel complete. The facade of the upper playfield is supposed to be like a castle, an outer castle. And it's very flat looking and boring looking, and that struck me as kind of, not my favorite thing in the world. The intro to Game of Thrones is very iconic now for that show. Teresa loves it. Every time we start watching them, we will often watch them recorded on the DVR the next day. And I'm one to fast forward through things that I don't need to see, but she will make me play the whole intro because she loves it. Because there's like these gears. It's supposed to be like gears of a clock or gears of like a handmade toy that moves, but it's very complex and it builds up the different towns and areas of the world of Westeros where Game of Thrones takes place. And those gears are very iconic in the intro. They don't really have a lot to do with the actual show, but they're very, very prevalent here on the Game of Thrones pinball machine playfield. They're sort of all over the place. And they have sort of a rusted... I saw somebody call it a steampunk look to them, but it's sort of like, I don't know, like a forged gear type thing. And I don't know if that really, in my head, again, felt like the story of Game of Thrones. Now, it's certainly not all bad. I like what they've done with the choices of using the different families' flags, because Game of Thrones centers around lots of different powerful families who are trying to vie for power and play. The term Game of Thrones is something that one of the characters kind of says to someone who is, I think, complaining about where they're at, and she says, "You chose to play the Game of Thrones." It's the game of trying to be the king or the queen, trying to be in charge. And, that the Game of Thrones will probably, end poorly for you, I think was her point. So I like that the families are represented there, and that's kind of seems to be the middle section of the lower playfield. Your main inserts are about the different families. Pretty cool. So Targaryen, Stark, Baratheon, Lannister, Greyjoy, Tyrell, and Martell. Past that, I don't like the art on the playfield at all. At all. I think they went with too much of this map desert look, these gold coin spots. Gold is a part of the Game of Thrones story, not a huge part, but it is a part. I think it's going to be a much larger part of the Game of Thrones pinball machine. I'm okay with not having the characters on the playfield. I'm fine with that. That doesn't bother me. In fact, I sort of prefer that. And honestly, I don't even hold any grudges towards the Stern design team for the stylistic choices, and I saw a lot of people today, because I will say, after I spent some time really digesting these games, I did go and sift through the Pinside threads about Game of Thrones, and I did read through Facebook posts, and I got email about, people's thoughts on the thing, and a lot of people centered around the idea of some of the style of the artwork, and I'm okay with the style of the artwork, I suppose. It's certainly not my favorite. I think there have been better releases recently. I'm just disappointed, I think, with the overall feel of what I'm looking at. It looks very sandy and deserty and light-colored, when, if you think of Game of Thrones, if you're a Game of Thrones watcher, it's a dark show. It's a show about darkness and the light and the dark, and winter is coming, and steel and chainmail and castles and gray bricks and the sea, and this playfield doesn't fit in my mind's eye. So I will sum up the overall kind of first take is this, and this is what I think after reading literally hundreds of comments, talking to some people today throughout the day, texting back and forth with people about what they thought. Those that watch this show, I think, were very taken aback and often disappointed by what they saw. Because this is not very indicative, I think, of the story and the feel that has been portrayed by the HBO show. So on some level, it's like I don't even feel like critiquing the actual artwork does me much good, because the presentation of the artwork is just kind of not what I was expecting or hoping for or thinking they would choose. I'm also thrown by some other aspects to the choices of characters. The pros left side cabinet artwork, I think, is the closest thing to like, okay, kind of got that going there. A bunch of the Stark kids, I'm for that. That works. But then I look at the right side, and it's the Lannister family, and it's so sparse and light, and I just, man, I'm struggling. I'm struggling to like the visual aspects of this. It's really tough. I'm not digging that aspect of it. So what I want to do now, before we get into the actual and arguably much more important side of this game, the feature set and then the matrix of the features, I want to bring in someone else to give me their first opinion, having never looked at any of this, right here on the show.
Getting in bed with Teresa.
I would like to welcome to Coast to Coast Pinball, welcoming back, Teresa!
Hi.
Hi, Teresa, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Okay, so you're a Game of Thrones fan, right?
Yeah.
You like Game of Thrones?
Yeah.
You've read all the books?
I'm in the middle of the fifth one. It's really depressing, and I can't bring myself to finish it. But yes, I've read all of it.
We've seen all the shows?
Every one of them.
You would say that you probably keep the characters more straight than I do?
Yes, we have to often pause so I can explain to you who.
Because you've read the books and you know the names.
Yeah.
Part of it's just keeping the names straight. Because if you haven't read those names, it's hard to imagine.
all the houses and all that.
So, Game of Thrones Pinball released today. What I want is your take on the artwork.
Okay.
You've not seen any of this, right?
No, none of it.
None of it. I haven't showed you any of this. So we're just going to go right into it.
I'm excited.
And we're going to show you first. This is the Pro Game Translite. This, it's not the super high quality image, but that is the layout and the artwork choice for the Pro game. Like, that's my Metallica Pro machine. This is the Game of Thrones Pro Translite. What are your first thoughts here on the Game of Thrones Translite?
Well, is it going to be that fuzzy?
No,
okay.
Of course not. No, don't worry about the fuzziness.
I mean, it's weird that they have Robb Stark on there. It's a little bit cheesy the way they're all sort of like facing different directions. It's like they're trying to do a Lord of the Rings thing rather than like there's no action. It's just like people
Arya Stark's
standing
got
around.
her little sword right there.
No, it's called Needle, and I don't love it. I mean, I get it. They're doing the Lannisters over here, and they've got the Starks over here, but they're not even on the same. They're on different sides now. Like, it doesn't even. No. And where are the rest of the people?
Okay, so here's the whole machine. And so now you have the left side of the Pro cabinet with the back box side.
The three older Stark children.
Yep. Here is the left side.
So it's the exact same people. Are these the only people they could get permission for?
I don't know. I don't know the details of that.
Brienne. Okay.
She's up on the side. And the Hound is over here. Up there.
They're trying to do opposites. I get it. It's just not very inspiring.
What do you think about this side of the cabinet with the... what city is this?
That's the Red Keep, so that's... oh, God, I'm so tired. It's the main city where the king lives.
King's Landing?
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's King's Landing.
Okay. So the Lannisters over there. Okay, so here's the limited edition.
The side art is a little better, but why do they have to do like...
So there's your back glass on
yeah,
the
so they're
edition.
going for the dragon lady, Khaleesi, on this theme.
Yes. All right, and here is so that's the side art with obviously the dragon there on the side. Mm-hmm. Both sides, I believe, have the dragon. And this is actually hand-drawn art by a famous artist who did his own hand-drawing interpretation of the characters in the dragon.
I mean, the dragon looks cool. I like that better than people standing and facing different directions.
Better than the up here at the Pro.
Yeah.
Yeah. We haven't seen the premium yet. The premium apparently is going to have like a northern theme. Probably, Castle Black and probably key characters like Jon Snow and those folks. That's the guess right now. This is the side back box of the sides.
Yeah, the two dudes that like her.
Yeah, interesting choice, I thought.
Well, it's the two guys that are in love with her.
Yeah. I don't know. So here's the playfield. This is the limited edition playfield. I've got a bigger version of it for you here. That's what you'll be looking at when you're playing Game of Thrones pinball. What do you think? First look.
It doesn't really match the hand-drawn art thing going on with the rest of the machine, I guess. I mean, I like that they have all the different sigils of the houses. Well, some of them.
Yep. Who are the Martell house? I can't remember who that is.
That's the hot chick who's now married to the little young blondie prince.
Okay. Yeah.
And her crazy old grandma.
Gotcha.
They have lots of money.
Gotcha. Natalie Dormer.
Yeah. I just feel like Game of Thrones is a really dark series.
Yeah.
And there's like zero darkness here. So...
You think the color scheme is not dark enough?
The color scheme, the art, it's a little poppy and cheesy. And I feel like they could have gone a little darker if they wanted to. Okay, go down. See this type of art?
Yeah, and you're pointing to the apron, the sort of little like sketch guys of the wolf
the type
and
of
the tiger.
Art. If they would have gone that route, would have been freaking awesome.
Yeah,
because that looks like the type of stuff you see in the actual series and in the things that George R.R. Martin describes in his books.
So did they not have Photoshop back in Westeros?
No, they didn't.
So they were drawing basically with monotone colors on.
If we're going to talk about
vector.
these houses, though, they've got Targaryen, okay, Stark, Baratheon, Lannister, Tyrell.
That's the main ones.
Well, there's just yes, I can't get them all on there. Yeah, they've got the little cogs and wheels
from the intro. Yep.
But okay, this the sort of rust colored, very rustic looking stuff that looks like old school.
Yeah.
Mixed with these weird pop colors and like whatever this nonsense is, it doesn't go together. Like we've got this stonework looking stuff, but then we've got little shadow figures. Like that's the Hound and this is someone.
So to me, that sort of is a takeoff of, remember the big attack on the castle?
Yeah.
That's kind of what that's representing. And there's actually inserts on here, like wildfire.
Yeah, that's that stuff in the jars.
Yeah, the green stuff.
Green stuff, yeah.
Yeah. So it seems like that was a big heavy influence on the upper playfield and then this. But of course there's the dragon up here, which I guess
has nothing to do with that battle.
So that isn't that battle.
But it's fun. If they wanted to do like the assault on the King's Landing, that big battle of Blackwater Bay that they call it, have that be this side. Put the big pyramid in Meereen where Khaleesi is right now and have the dragons over on that side. Like I get they want to do some of the most exciting things they have and then have a northern part. Like why is there nothing of the north on this entire
I think back
field?
Here is White Walker North stuff and on
like the wall. They should have the freaking wall somewhere.
So on
what's happening?
Pro game, there is no upper playfield, and that is what the playfield looks like on the Pro.
No.
See where there's a White Walker there in the background and the wall is in the background?
Why? I don't understand why they're mixing these bright primary color, like plasticky looking decals with this other type of sort of old school looking rustic art.
I think some of that you're running into is they're using color changing LEDs, and the color changing lights are sort of primary, color changing lights. So there's probably some of that influencing what they're doing. Whereas maybe just having gone like red and blue and white might have been a better idea there.
Why do we need any bright colors? Why can't we do something that's got like the wall that's like glowing, like cool sky, scary ice blue in the back, and have like they could do. You know how they have the elevator that goes up and down the wall? Ball could be on an elevator.
That's actually here. There is an elevator here that will take the ball up 2 different levels.
Okay, does it go up the wall?
It goes up and it either drops the ball, I believe, into the throne or onto the upper playfield. Yeah, so there is an elevator.
Okay, this is awful. This just needs to go away.
What's that?
It's ugly. You
have to describe it. Audio.
Okay, the fire that is awful looking and the big red pikes. I'm not even sure what those are.
They're
what
spears.
are those?
Spears.
Why? Why are they spears? Spears aren't a big part of anything. And then just the yellow.
Well, those are flippers.
It's just ugly. I don't understand. And the sad fake gray castle wall. Is that supposed to be the red keep? Because it's red brick. I'm sorry. I don't mean to say that. It's just frustrating when this is such... There's so much art that they could have used. Again, this is what I like. These two things.
Again, you're pointing to the triangular inserts on the apron
that should have been
the lion and the dragons and the wolf.
The whole thing should have been that style.
Interesting.
People too.
Very interesting. Well, I will say again, Teresa and I have not talked about this at all.
He's probably mad at me about half the stuff I'm saying.
No, you said a lot of the same stuff I said, actually. Very similar takes.
It's frustrating as someone who is a fan of the books and of the show. It seems like the people who made this have no idea what the show is actually about. That's what it comes off like. Honestly, it's like, who made this? Did they consult with people who actually read the books or watched the show? If so, maybe they didn't consult with them enough.
Well, I appreciate your thoughts, Teresa. Anything else you'd like to say? You made your Coast to Coast Pinball live streaming debut this weekend.
Oh, I did. I apologize for not being that great at pinball.
I thought you were fine.
Did I do okay?
I thought you did well.
Is there anything else you can show me?
No, I think that's it. I wanted your first initial take as someone who knows the show and has a vested interest in the show and could, take a look at it. That you're actually making a point for me that I wanted to make about why I think there's been some major disappointment on Pinside today. I believe a lot of it is because expectations for people who are into both Game of Thrones and pinball, they had this vision, and I don't think that this particular art package is meeting that vision.
Well, and I was saying this when we weren't recording. Game of Thrones is a cultural phenomenon. It is now part of the cultural fabric of America and Europe and lots of other parts of the world right now. That's just reality.
It's huge.
Because of that, I feel like the vibe of the books and the show could have been respected a little more.
Okay.
I feel like this is not respecting the series.
Okay. Well, thank you for your opinions. I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah. No, hey, and Stern people, hey, you can change it. No?
Probably not.
All right.
Nice try, though. All right. Bye, Teresa.
Bye.
So there's Teresa's take, and I'm very aware that she said a lot of the same things, like almost word for word that I said. I did not prompt her. She did not hear what I said. That was all off the cuff. She actually wanted to talk more when I stopped recording, and she's really mad about this. She doesn't like it at all. She takes it personally. So I guess my whole point doing that is, it's not to pile on Stern or Greg Ferreras or the art direction in total. It's not what my point is here. My point is, when you have a theme, a piece of intellectual property like Game of Thrones, it's a double-edged sword. Get it? So it's a double-edged sword because the good edge, the exciting edge, is that people are already excited about your game without ever seeing it. B, expectations. And if you don't meet those expectations, you can create a backlash. And I think we saw a pretty healthy backlash here today from the pinball community. Now, granted, pundits, people like just typing, keyboard commandos, morons with microphones like me, we're always going to find something to complain about, right? I mean, I call a spade a spade. Kiss came out, I said it looked awesome. What was before Kiss? I don't even remember. Walking Dead came out, I said it looked great. Mustang came out, I said I thought it looked terrible. I'll call it like I really think. It's just my opinion. I think this looks not true to the source material, is the nicest thing I could say about it. I think the art is a return to form for Stern, and not a good form, if that makes sense. It's a step backwards to me, for sure. However, art does not make a pinball game. You can have great art and a boring game. You can have poor or uninspired art and a fantastic game. So I think what we need to do then is start looking at what the other really big story, I think, coming out of this first early look at Game of Thrones is the Pro and the limited edition here are very different in their feature sets and their overall looks and layouts. The upper playfield, it's kind of a big deal to have a full-on upper playfield back in a Stern game. We have the WWE WrestleMania upper playfield, which was a ring and it had the poppers, but it didn't have two flippers and the targets. It was sort of a new version on the playfield, which was cool. I don't think it's actually done them any favors in gameplay, but it was interesting to see they tried it. So this is sort of the classic upper corner, Twilight Zone, Shadow, Shrek, Family Guy, like upper playfield. And it's got two flippers. It looks like there's 3 stand-up targets, 2 rollover lanes, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-ish shots. And there may be some targets that I can't see up in there. So it definitely looks like there's things going on up in this upper playfield. So it will have some meat to it in the gameplay. Well, when you go look at the Pro, there's no upper playfield. Like, they literally took off the upper playfield, and now instead of having a ramp that shoots the ball up to the upper playfield, you have a ramp that returns back to the in lane, and it's going to be a very different gameplay. There's no hiding it this time. The Pro is very much going to be a more flow-oriented game. I get a little tired of hearing the flow discussion that starts coming out on early launch days for new games. How flow is going to be so great or bad or stop and go. This game has quite a few tight shots. It has quite a few stand-up targets with tight shots between them. This game will play pretty quick, I think. Stand-up targets on the lower left of the playfield. This will be, I think, an exciting game to play, even if the ramps could slow the game down or the upper playfield. But the fact that they left the upper playfield off of the Pro is a pretty big story, because for a fair amount of people buying for the home environment, that's going to be a no-go. That is going to instantly force them into a decision not of Pro versus Premium or LE, but of Premium versus Pro versus passing on the game completely. I talked to Jody Dankberg, the head of marketing at Stern Pinball today. I emailed him. I had a question about the release and something that was sort of a rumored thing that was out there, and I wanted to get a confirmation or a deny of that, and I got what I needed to know. My little rumor that I was confirming was not true, for those of you checking. So Jody got me straightened out there. I would always like to be, correct in stuff like that. So Jody and I chatted for a little bit. We talked about it, and they're getting the feedback, they're hearing it, and he asked me what I thought, and I told him, I said I didn't think it really looked like the show to me. But I said that, I'm very, very aware that how it plays and how the rules go together will influence what I really think of the game at the end of the day. But on day one, I think that they're very aware at Stern that the artwork in the package is going to get the full dissection, because what's what we're looking at. We're looking at photos. We're visual people looking at a visual game response on day one. I didn't really ask a lot of stuff on the record of Jody. We were just sort of chatting about it, and I just wanted to hear the thoughts of the marketing manager on day one of the release of a new pinball machine from Stern Pinball. That was very interesting to me. And what I can tell you is, they're realists at Stern. They know that not everyone's going to love everything, and they will still contend. Even though Gary Stern told me directly that 50% of the games, or more than 50% of the games in the United States, are sold into the home now, overall, the number that Jody laid out to me was still 80% of games sold by the company are for operators. And that's, worldwide. As you get into other countries outside the United States, and the percentage of games going on route and being operated for profit is way, way higher than here. So I think what you have here is Stern sort of really differentiating the game aimed at the operators, which is the Pro model. With a smaller bill of materials, the operator can spend less money to get the game and start earning money quicker on his investment, versus the full-fledged game that has all of the parts and ideas from the designers, which is the premium and the limited edition, which I think is aimed at the home collector who wants to buy the full experience. Now, there will be people who will take what I just said and take a negative look at that and say, "Oh, they're greedy. They're forcing me. If I want the real game, I have to spend more money." Well, nobody's forcing anybody to buy anything, would be my argument to that. These are games, these are toys, and you're running a business and you're trying to be profitable, and there's no guarantee that you're going to sell more games next time. You can't guarantee anything. So if you have hot intellectual property and you have a good design, there's definitely some strategy involved there in trying to sell more of the expensive version of that toy you're trying to sell. And I believe this is sort of Stern edging a certain percentage of the people buying these games towards the more expensive one. I don't begrudge them for that. If you look at who Stern's competition is, some would say there isn't any. Stern is still the only company that announces a game and ships the game in the same year. Let's be real honest, right? Nobody else has announced a game and shipped the game that they announced in the same year. That hasn't happened. They are the ones. So they don't really have competition, if you will. Now, if you look at what alternatives in the marketplace there are, if you're willing to, bet on a new company, bet on a smaller company, get in line and wait on a smaller company, you look at products from Jersey Jack, which I think are sort of their own thing with the back glass and the wide body and the increased bill of materials that has to go with that game. You look at games from like a Spooky Pinball, which is a completely different business model, a very limited run of their games, sort of the boutique angle at it. If you look at Highway Pinball, I think Highway Pinball is aiming to be the closest thing that is a real competitor to Stern, where they're releasing multiple games, shipping multiple titles, and maybe offering more in just a raw feature set at a lower price point than a Stern game. But as far as Stern competition goes, showing a game and shipping the same game in 1 year, there is no competition. And they also sell the least expensive new in-box pinball machine in the world right now. Period. Like, let that sink in. You cannot buy from anyone a full-size flipping game that could be put on route or put into home pinball machine, full-size game, from anyone for less money than you can go buy a Stern pinball machine. So in that regard, they have no competition. So if they want to say, here is our game that you can buy for $5,800 retail or $5,900 retail, whichever the pricing was, or here is our game you can buy for $7,800 retail, or whatever the price was. I have to dig back into the pricings there. $7,600 for the premium. And you want all the extra features and the full thing, so either $6,000 or $7,800. Make your choice. I don't begrudge them for that. It's actually probably good business, especially when you have people buying just on the love for a theme. It's unfortunate, I think, that today didn't go more like the Kiss launch, where everyone was like, oh my gosh, look at the artwork, it's awesome. And then when you had to look at what the people were complaining about on the Kiss launch, it was pretty nitpicky stuff. It's unfortunate that on this particular one with a theme that people are so excited about, that there was so much pushback. That's a bummer, because had this art package been knocked out of the park, and hey, look, it's day one, art package is really all we have to go on, I think they sell a lot of games today. And that's sort of a bummer, because I want Stern selling a lot of pinball machines. It's good for the industry. So let's take a rundown looking at the Game of Thrones game feature matrix. And I know that this can be a little tedious, so I'll kind of hit the high points here as we go. I won't read through everything, but it will, hit the main attractions. So experience the greatest epic Game of Thrones battle in a world under glass. Okay, that's marketing. Fine. Custom speech and narration by Game of Thrones actor Rory McCann as Sandor Clegane, I don't know how he says that, a.k.a. the Hound. So I don't think that this got enough kind of talk today in the forums, because that's a pretty big deal. This is a real actor. This is not some, nobody guy who you can just like buy lunch and he'll come do, voice actor for you. And Jody actually told me that this is, this wasn't like a freebie. They had to pay a real true professional actor money to come in and do, voicing and speech, custom speech and narration for this game. And if you watch the show, this guy's got a cool voice. I think this is going to be great. What a difference I feel playing Kiss with Gene Simmons' deep, growly voice versus The Walking Dead with, generic, southernish sounding guy, right? I think it's a much more immersive experience when the voice matches the theme. So, chalk one up on Game of Thrones too. I think this guy has a great voice. And if you know his character, he sort of is escorting another character and showing them the ropes sort of in a gruff, dangerous sort of way. I like it. I actually really, really like this. Are there bigger characters you could have gone after? Yeah. There's also a lot of smaller characters. I think this is a great choice. And I know Peter Dinklage did the voiceover. He plays the I guess in the show they call him the dwarf son on the Lannister side, and he's one of the main actors, the main characters of the entire show. A lot of the show's focused around him. He's a fantastic actor who's won Emmys for this show, and he did the voice work in a video game I believe called Destiny. Right? Was it Destiny? And they had to actually take him off later because it didn't work out. It was just a whole dramatic thing. So I don't think you were going to get him on this after the unfortunate thing in the video game world. Also, players choose to be a knight of the Stark, Lannister, Greyjoy, Baratheon, Martell, or Tyrell family houses. So you're obviously going to be choosing which house you play under going into this game. Players choose other houses to battle and include stacking battle choices for twice the challenge. So you can see that a lot of thought's been put into these rules. This was one of the other big rumors I was hearing going into this game launch is how much thought and conceptual ideas were already at work and being brought into Game of Thrones pinball and how this is really going to make the game. Players strive to rule the 7 kingdoms of Westeros. Players, so animated interactive dragon toy. So that's on the Pro. You get an animated interactive dragon toy. If you head over to IGN.com, who is also doing kind of launch day, releases for pinball machines now. Sam from IGN came on the show back for Kiss, right? Shows you where I'm at right now. For the Kiss launch with Gene X Wong, they go into some of the stuff that Jody told them about the game, and there's some details on these dragon quote animations. And if I can find them really quickly. The animated dragon in the LE version has a kickback under it, which it blasts the ball back at the upper playfield flippers when hit. The animation differences for the dragon toy are described by Dankberg as follows. The LE has a smoother motion and another motor that moves the dragon up and down, so you're battling the dragon. He's either going to flap his wings, raise up and down, or antagonize you. All right? So on the Pro, it sounds like he's just going to have a little less motion as featured in the Matrix. He's saying... too many windows open. It's not what he's saying. I have too many windows open. An animated interactive dragon toy on the Pro. So in the Premium and Limited Edition, you get a motorized animated interactive dragon toy up on that upper playfield who will be shooting the ball back at you. Exciting sword fight display mode. I don't totally know what that is. I imagine that is something to do with the confirmed video mode that we will have on this game. So there will be a video mode on Game of Thrones, and I believe that is what the sword fight display mode will be mentioning, because I guess it's true. This is not truly a video mode on a dot matrix display. Castle upper playfield with 2 flippers, a loop shot, 3 half-inch targets, 2 drop-off lanes, and moon door. So drop-off lanes there is on the Premium Limited Edition. The Castle upper playfield embodies unique rules, castle multi-ball, and other surprises. So there's your big shift in gameplay for the 2 higher-priced versions of the game. A battering ram sliding bash target smashes castle gate for bonuses and needed weapons and features. That's on all 3 of the games. So there's a battering ram target which will push up. You will hit it, and it will push up, and it'll award bonuses. The bonus factor of this game, from what I can understand by reading the rule cards and reading the playfield, is going to be a big deal, because you're going to actually get to 5 times multiplier for shots, and then the shots can also be multiplied 5 times again somehow. I'm not totally clear on all this, but you'll end up with shots at 25 times their value. So there will be a lot of strategy built into this game, and the battering ram toy will be central to how that takes place. White Walker Kickback fires ball back at players in anger. All right, so that's a kickback on the premium and the limited edition. Dragon Kickback fires ball back at players in anger on the Pro edition. So that's a ball being shot back at you. Spinning Target with Sync Flash trademarked Super Bright Flasher. So that's a spinner. There's a spinner on all three. We got that on Kiss. We have that back on Game of Thrones. We've got the spinner on all three, which I like that. I think spinners are awesome and should be on pinball machines whenever possible. So then you get into, electric gates, super speed ramps. There's an up post on the Pro, which will change the way the ball can go through, I take it. It talks about the stand-up targets, the three-bank drop targets, stand-up targets on all of them, the ramps, etc., etc. So left plastic ramp feeds to upper playfield and connects to chrome left wire ramp, then to left return lane. That's talking about the differences we have on the premium and the limited edition. Also on the LE, a blade diverter shuttles ball around right orbit shotter into the elevator entrance. So that's the elevator I was telling Teresa about. There's an iron throne toy with flasher, holds and ejects balls, only on the premium and the LE. So that's one of those things where people were quick to jump on and say, wait, so you're saying that on the Pro, the Game of Thrones pinball machine doesn't have a throne? They kind of were left open for that one. And then they talk about the flippers, the new quiet flippers. Single resettable drop target guards the ramp leading to the castle. So there's a drop target in front of the ramp that takes you to that upper playfield castle on the premium and the limited edition. I think that is a good idea because that's going to influence sort of your gameplay, where maybe the game's not going to want you to be able to get the ball to the mini playfield, sort of like what a lot of people have been saying WrestleMania needs is some way to keep the ball out of the upper playfield at times. So that'll be interesting to see how that drop target is programmed into the game. So you're going to have 7 full spectrum color changing LEDs on the Pro and 63 of them on the more expensive versions. All LEDs, which is how Stern rolls nowadays. And then you're going to have super powerful full spectrum color changing LED floodlights on upper playfield on the premium and the limited edition. All right, some other things just to kind of round this off is the limited edition, and I believe, just the limited edition, gets this very interesting laser cut side armor with the Targaryen dragons and the words Fire and Blood in them with sort of a red backing, which I think that looks pretty cool. I like that's one of the LE upgrades that I really like, doing something like that with the side armor. I think that's pretty neat. Me, in a perfect world, there'd just be one game, and if you wanted to do a limited version, it would be all visual and art. But I get that that's not the model that Stern has put together. So, it is what it is. But I like the way that looks on the sides. Also, we have, to kind of finish up the Matrix talk here, so you're getting gloss black powder-coated legs on the LE, and you're getting the typical black wrinkle powder coat on the Pro and the Premium. Other than that, your typical stuff comes with the LE. They're going to do 700 of them. You're going to get Steve Ritchie's autograph under the hard coat. You're going to get a certificate of authenticity, the serial number plate, etc., etc., etc. So I feel like I was pretty rough on the art package here. And I'll say again, expectations I don't think were met for our Game of Thrones fans. I have talked to a few people today who don't know anything about Game of Thrones and just thought it looks okay, not bad. And I think that you're going to have some of that too. People who don't really know the story, don't care, are going to see this and kind of not understand why people are being so kind of emotional about it. But I think you heard Teresa, I think you hear me, you see a lot of people on Pinside. They just had a different vision, and that's a tough one. So it's day one. It's just the first look. We don't really know how this thing's going to play. Everything I'm hearing about the rules sounds really awesome. Everything I'm hearing about just the idea that you're going to be, battling different families, multiplying your shot values, etc. So it's very cool. There's a lot of talk of this slot machine feature that will be popping up on the display. And I think if I go back to the IGN article, that there's a gold collecting mechanic. So the Lannisters will love is a gold collecting mechanic which allows you to spend what you've amassed to achieve your goals. In-game economies are uncommon in pinball. That's what is said in this IGN article. So basically, you're going to be earning gold, and the stand-up targets around the playfield, if you look closely, a lot of them are little bundles of gold. So you'll be earning gold by hitting those, and then apparently you're going to buy. I don't know if you're going to be buying weapon upgrades to cause more damage to certain hits, or how exactly that's going to work. But you're going to be buying, products of some sort with this gold. I also know that you'll have the chance to cash in your increased bonuses or your increased multipliers using that button that's put on the bar there on the lockdown bar. So that bar is going to play into the video mode from what I'm reading. It's going to play into purchasing or cashing in your multipliers. It's going to be very interesting. Jody also described the video modes controlled by the lock bar as an 8-bit kind of a throwback thing, almost early 80s retro looking. So that kind of leads us into what the video mode's going to be all about. So something else sort of interesting I read today. Game of Thrones Pinball will not be available in digital form at launch, but Dankberg says they're working on digitizing Stern games from the past and present with Zen Pinball. The ultimate goal is to one day co-release a digital and physical version of a pinball machine. So in the future, the idea is when you release the game, I can download it digitally as well, which is very, very cool. So I look forward to seeing the developments of Game of Thrones. I really can't wait to play it. I hope that this game plays great. I also think that what's going to happen is I'm going to be very critical of this artwork in these photographs. I'm going to get and see it in person, and it's going to look better in person with lights on it in a game under glass with the ball flying around. That's typically what I think when I see a game for the first time in person. Is wow, that looks better than I thought it would. It certainly happened with Mustang. Certainly happened with WrestleMania, and I have no doubt to think that I don't think I'm being too optimistic by thinking that the lighting around that upper playfield on the LE and lighting with the White Walkers in the background on the Pro is going to look really nice when we actually get going on a real game. And hopefully it's a Steve Ritchie game and we get great feeling shots. We have awesome coding from the team working on it at Stern. I am tentatively very excited about this game still. I can't help shake this feeling that I was pretty rough on the artwork as I kind of have gone through this episode, but it is what it is. It's my take. It's my thoughts on the first look, and I hope to be past that and playing a game that's very enjoyable in the not too distant future. Probably Expos the first time I see it. So feel free, drop me a line if you think I'm crazy. If you agree completely, you can always tell me that too. You can email me anytime you like at coast2coastpinball@gmail.com. You can like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. More importantly, subscribe to us on YouTube. Find us on YouTube. It's YouTube. I'll bet you, if I've done my work, it's youtube.com/Coast2Coast Pinball. That's the number 2, Coast Pinball. And that indeed will get you to our YouTube page where you can subscribe. You can see some videos like the Wrath of Olympus video I posted, the Pinburg Finals video, the first version of us streaming here in the office. You can see that, and hopefully more live streams to come. I appreciate you listening, and I will talk to you again very soon.
I am Tyrion, son of Tywin of Clan Lannister.
How would you like to die, Tyrion, son of Tywin?
In my own bed, at the age of 80?